smoking some of the best dope God ever put around here.
JustinFREAKIN is a formidable voice in the culture.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories.
You live in sexual anarchy.
This is the Troll Patrol, live with JustinFREAKIN.
Yeah, Holiday, it took them a year to rule that. They actually argued the case back in November. This morning, Trump ruled, or the Supreme Court ruled that Trump's tariffs are illegal. Dean, welcome in. The Troll Patrol is the show you're watching right now. We cover news, politics, current events, the most absurd news, politics, and current events on the internet. That's what the Troll Patrol is. We also take calls and comments, and we have a lot of fun. Sometimes we look for a GOP mommy. Sometimes we offer our services as a liberal daddy. Depends on what our mood is. Today, we're getting ready to watch the gigantic crash out that's probably going to happen at this press conference over the Supreme Court ruling that Trump's tariffs are illegal. Oh, now come on. I don't simp for him very much anymore.
Regulating revenue is some of your own opinions.
I haven't played the GOP mommy thing in so long.
Got revenue for the first 100 years of our republic. Tariffs are constitutionally special because our founders feared revenue raising, unlike embargoes. You know, there was no Boston embargo party, but there was certainly a Boston Tea Party. The second thing, textually, in the statute, it's different. Regulate appears in a cluster.
What are you referring to as anti-American, my friend?
Nullify and the like.
I would love to know. I need a precise definition on that
for
one.
Example. But they don't describe revenue exactions. That's Justice Kagan's point. The one verb that's missing here is anything about raising revenue.
What tariff claims
whatsoever.
to Jones? Welcome in, my
Another
friend.
point,
Warlord,
congressional
clinically,
displacement.
holiday.
Today there's a whole host of statutes.
Afternoon. I had to look and see what time it
Title
was.
19, which both expressly confer the power to tariff and always impose clear limits. Embargoes by the president.
Drum is the
don't have any
president
of that.
America
They don't
needs,
set
and
aside
look what
that whole
happens
thing.
to
If you look at the
everybody
Learning
tries to tear
Resources
things
brief
down.
At page 5, it goes through
Dean,
these statutes in
I
detail.
don't know what you're
Section
trying to say.
122 expressly says duties and then limits it 15%.
Exactly,
within 50
Titan,
days.
exactly.
Section 201, any duty on the imported article.
He said
but it
duty.
requires ITC findings.
This
Section
press
301,
conference set to take
imposed
place
duties.
any
That's
minute
the
now. You can
language
see
of
the room is
statute.
packed.
All sorts of procedural restrictions.
We're
Section
live on
338,
TikTok. We're
the same.
live
I can
on
go through this,
YouTube.
and I could start, by the way, Justice Thomas.
I
with
will
the
lay out.
statutes at
We'll
the
let Trump
founding,
do the talking
which
once he
expressly
comes and
said
takes the
word
podium.
tariff or an equivalent.
Let's go back to your non-delegation. point.
Afterwards, they dimmed the
Seeing
lights.
That,
They dimmed the
it's,
lights.
If the tariff power cannot be delegated, your argument on non-delegation would also have to apply to embargo.
Liberals, Democrats, anti-ICE
No, Your Honor,
Americans. I think
because
you're
I think
anti-American, my
because
friend.
they're
ICE has
uniquely
illegally
revenue
detained
raising,
4,400
special,
people. That's
unique
4,400
concerns that
violations
go
of the
back to our
Constitution.
founding. And so I don't think.
I think
they
you
apply
hate
to
the country.
embargoes. And indeed, the
You're
history
saying
of
you're
this
getting
is very-
criminals
very
out. You
clear.
voted for a criminal.
As you just
The
heard my
man you
friend
voted
say, in
for, a literal
1790,
felon.
George Washington was delegated massive embargo power.
And then you
from
want to
Congress.
preach to us
But what
about
did Congress
criminals.
Not to? And this
You're
is why
what's
the
wrong with
example
this
cuts the
country.
other way. They never gave the president any sort of delegation of tariff
But
authority at
Biden.
the time. Our point is not you can't delegate tariff authority. It's simply that you've got to do so with intelligible principles. And what you just heard my friend say is every single limit.
We've
in
got
APA
mood
is
lighting.
one that is not judicially enforceable. There's no limit.
the press
whatsoever.
briefing.
And indeed, the main limit that was in there, he calls this some compromise position. The only compromise in
Jinx
1977
warlord.
was the legislative veto. And as this case comes to the court, that's no longer in the statute at all.
Counsel, yes, sure, the tariffs are a tax, and that's a core power of Congress, but they're a foreign-facing tax, right? And that foreign
What you're
affairs
hearing
core
is the
power
arguments
of
from
the,
back in
executive.
November
And I don't think
that
you
led
can
to the
dismiss
ruling this morning.
the consequences. I mean, we didn't stay this case, and one thing.
Oh,
that's
Dean, if you
quite
think
clear is that
that's
the
being a grifter, wait till you hear what
foreign-facing
Trump's
tariffs
kids have
in several
done.
situations
Right, and we are.
quite- I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry.
We're quite effective in achieving particular objectives.
I might open the phone
I don't think you
lines
can
here
just
after
separate
we
it and
do the
say
press
this is a
conference.
tax. Congress
You can
is
see them
power.
holding up a white sheet. What they're doing is letting the
Implicates
reporters
directly the
white
president's
balance their
foreign affairs
cameras.
Mr. Chief Justice, we don't disagree with a large part of that. We think instead of thinking about foreign versus domestic, the better way of thinking about it is Article 1 versus Article 2. And as my friend finally conceded,
Trump actually
Justice
didn't win the
Gorsuch,
election big
there
time.
is no
He
Article 2
didn't even
power
win a
here, at
majority
least
of the
when we're talking
vote.
about
More people
peacetime.
voted for
Well, you
someone
don't
other
agree
than Trump
with
than
a large
voted for
part of
Trump.
what's
More
the
people
legal
stayed
part that you do
home
disagree.
So we
than voted.
We agree with the
And
idea.
of the
that
people that
tariffs are
voted,
foreign
more
policy
people voted for
implications.
someone other than
Absolutely.
Trump.
Our founders recognize that. That's in the Federalist Papers. But nonetheless, they exclusively
I don't think you're a very
committed
intelligent
that
person,
power
Dean.
to
I'm sorry.
Congress in Article 1, Section
But stick
8,
around,
viewed
watch
as
the
its
Troll
first
Patrol,
power.
and
So
you
when
might get a
hear
little
my
educated.
friends cite cases like Egan and Garamendi, they just don't apply to this specific unique situation in which Congress is.
I don't
given
even
that
know
power.
how to
And
respond
if you
to
were
that.
tempted
You're
by this,
the
I think
birther
the best
conspiracy,
place to
which has
look
been
is Youngstown,
debunked
because
over
what
and over
Justice
and over
Jackson said,
again.
and I was surprised Tariffs.
I
They quoted
just like,
pages 652
you're the
because
reason
Justice
why
Jackson
I'm just
says,
like, all right, right wingers are
emergency
morons.
powers tend to kindle emergencies, so it's essential the public may know the extent and limitations of the powers that can be asserted, and persons affected may be informed from the statute of its rights and duties. And Justice Jackson went on to say there that it's notable our founders didn't give the
You guys love Hunter's gigantic
schlong. Even in
we
a
know.
time of war.
Can I just get a clarification of your answer, which is you agree if the word tariff were in the statute, that would be acceptable and
The
constitutional?
majority of Americans are fucking stupid. Yeah. And the rest are dumber than that.
Constitutionally permissible. The question would then be, is the open-ended assertion of power here? Because every other tariff
I
statute
get as
has
applied to this
limitations.
case, but the general point is, yes, Congress, you said it's assigned to Congress, but Congress can
Did they turn down the lighting hoping
authority
to
presidents to
calm
impose
him?
Absolutely.
as a general proposition.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we have to figure out then what regulate importation means. And you've heard my questions. If this statute came out of nowhere in 1977, I think your case would be
It is totally my fault. Red wine, welcome in.
obviously stronger. We have to figure out, at
Light
least
one up, tip one back.
to figure out what the Nixon precedent stands for and what Algonquin stands for. On the Nixon precedent, the question is, I think, was Congress aware?
Good
of
afternoon,
that?
my friend, or good
When
evening.
they used regulated importation, and it's now being used
Wherever
to
you may be
encompass
watching in the
tariffs.
world.
That's not unheralded.
Good morning to my friends out there on the West Coast.
You know, President Nixon announced those tariffs in a nationwide primetime speech, 10% across the board.
I have no idea what you're talking about,
Some
Dean.
kind of
If you would like to call in after we get done watching the press conference, I'll let
Question then is,
you.
Was Congress? Why didn't they change?
We can
the
have a
language? Why
conversation.
didn't
You
they
can actually
regulate,
explain the
not
nonsense
tariffs?
you're
That's
spewing.
Kind of the difficult question from the Nixon precedent that I'll give you an opportunity to answer.
Thank you, Justice Kavanaugh. So 5 answers on the Nixon precedent. First, there is no evidence that Congress thought it was
It is
ratifying
weird to
Yoshida.
accuse me
It was
of
a
being
single court of appeals
anti-labor when I'm
case.
about
It's-
as
it's
pro-labor
not
as
so
it
my
gets.
question, I never mentioned Yoshida. It's the
I
use
think everybody should belong in a
of that
union.
power under regulated importation.
If we're just talking about that, President Nixon did not rely on the statute whatsoever.
Several of my friends live in
That's very clear.
California,
In fact,
and
we
they
have a
think you're
Marshall
all
McLuhan
batshit
moment
crazy.
here because you have before you Alan.
One of my best friends lives in California,
room
and she's
with
like,
Nixon
I have
saying
no idea what these
Nixon
people are
totally
talking about.
disagreed
One of the stories
that
I
the
liked the
statute
best
applied.
was
So if we're
from
just talking about
the
Nixon,
Super
I
Bowl.
don't
Was
think
all
we can
these
get the
people
government
went
ever
to
Before your
Yeah.
San Francisco for the Super Bowl, and they're like, hey, Fox News told us this is a hellhole. There's homeless people shitting on the streets everywhere, but this city's really
The
cool.
government is arguing, and with respect to that, this cert-denied intermediate court of appeals decision, I don't.
So
think
I don't know what you're
close
talking
to
about. You've just
overcoming
been
the
fed a
clear,
line of
plain
bullshit.
Text. The word regulate is
The
words
propaganda
regulate
you watched
importation.
told
The
you
word
that
regulate
California
has never been
is in
used.
the
It's-
toilet, and you
it's-
work
the Congress
backwards
uses
from that
the term
conclusion.
1,499 times. We got about that number of hits when we looked at it, and maybe
I
there's
don't
some
like when they send
but
jobs
it is
overseas.
never
That's
used
why
even
I'm
once
for
to
unions.
impose taxes
That's
or
why I'm for
revenue raising,
worker
and that was the
ownership.
question that Justice Barrett was asking, and so I don't think that this
When workers
intermediate
own the means of
appeals
productions, they
decision
don't send their
will get you
jobs
there.
overseas.
And
You
then
don't know
even
what
if
you're
you
talking
thought
about.
that Congress knew about Yoshida, and even if you thought
is
they liked
Republican
which there's absolutely
policies
zero
that have
evidence
sent
of,
jobs
I don't
overseas
think
for
that helps the
decades.
government for reasons that Justice Alito was pointing to, because Yoshida said 3 things. A, TWIA doesn't give the unlimited authority that the government is seeking here. B, they were
I have no
only
idea what you're
holding
talking
the
about.
limited
Randy, welcome in.
specific
Trump is
assertion of
crazy, and he's probably going to get
President
really
Nixon
crazy in
sought
this
there.
press conference.
And
That's why it's going to be
third,
entertaining.
Going forward, the solution, they said in footnote 33, was to use Section 122 of the 19th.
Why did they have
Trade Act,
propaganda that
15%,
convinced you of
150
bullshit,
days.
Dean?
No
I
problem
don't
with the
know.
president doing that. It's just that this president has torn up the entire tariff architecture. You know, for example, he's tariffing Switzerland, one of our allies, which we have a trade surplus, 39%. That is just not something that any president has ever had the power to do in our history. And the idea that Congress, by implication, did this
I
in
think you're stupid, Dean.
1977 and
I
handed
really
him
do.
all this power,
I'm sorry, my
I think
friend.
is really difficult.
Just to ask the other. Go ahead.
Do you think we're stupid? You think we're fools?
Let's start with just the bare statutory language. You have arguments about structure. You have
I should
arguments
be
about
for
history.
Trump.
There are strong arguments, but let's just start.
I should be for the
bare
pedophile
statutory
con man.
language.
That's what you're
Regulate
telling me.
importation. If we disregard all of the rest, would you dispute that that would include the imposition of a fee?
So if it's
Trump, the guy with billions of investments in Saudi Arabia and in China,
there's a particular national park that's very.
He's always late.
Congress passes a statute that says the National Park Service may regulate admission to the park. You say, well,
that's an idiotic thing. It's like a bumper sticker statement that you've been
Your Honor, sometimes
propagandized to believe. I think the government needs to be big enough to regulate industry. It needs to be big enough to take care of environmental disasters.
That may
be big enough
those
to
kinds of cases which I think
goes beyond the cost of
do the kind of public works programs that we're in need of. We need nationwide high-speed rail, and we need it in like the next 5 years, but that ain't going to happen.
The imposition of the fee.
Sports cars, welcome in.
If it doesn't raise,
well, you got to pay the troll toll to get into this boys' hole.
Then I think that's fine. If it does,
it raises revenue. Then
I think it's a tougher
hypothetical. That wouldn't apply.
So I think
Dean, if you want to have a conversation, you can call in after the press conference.
It wouldn't be permitted. That is, at least in the
We're currently listening to oral arguments in the tariffs case.
That gets
Perhaps you should listen a little bit more,
start out
and you might learn some stuff.
statutory language. And,
Listen.
That was what my question was about. Do you think all tariffs are revenue raising? Suppose that instead of imposing
answer for what, my friend? I don't know what you're talking about. You're just like ranting like a fucking idiot.
That an executive order imposed a tariff on one particular country and provided that this would take effect in.
When have I not accepted election results? Dean, you are really dumb.
Days, an agreement is reached with that country so that no tariff is ever collected. Would that be a revenue-raising tariff?
I take it the initial point and on its face it is.
Instead of telling me what I believe, why don't you ask me what I believe
and look,
or what I think?
There are edge cases.
Right-wingers have a
confronted just recently
real habit of doing that, of trying to frame an argument and make us defend some position that we never took.
This is obviously revenue raising. Their own brief to the court says it's going to raise $4 trillion. And Justice Alito, you and your consumer.
Dean, I think you're stupid, my friend. I have no idea what you're trying to say.
That you joined said taxation.
But when you lose an election, you need to become an American and be as.
It is the most powerful thing the government does.
Let me go back and see what your social media looked like during Biden.
They know exactly how to write tariff and tax statutes, gave this power by implication through the word regulate.
Trump doesn't care about anybody but himself. He is a pedophile con man. He raped kids. You're an idiot.
That impose tariffs. And you have a point if that's the relevant universe. What if the relevant universe is tariffs that are imposed in emergencies?
I am not high enough for this shit, but we are on TikTok.
The other way. So, as Justice Jackson said, it's when you're in an emergency situation, the statutes actually have to speak with more precision. The public needs to know because emergencies beget emergencies. And I would say the best way of understanding what Congress does in emergencies is to look at their emergency statutes. Not one has ever given the president a taxation power or a tariff power. We've had all sorts of emergencies for 238 years. No president has ever said, oh, the way to deal with that is I need to have a tariff authority. And as Justice Sotomayor said, IEPA gives already a quota power, so you can get what the foreign policy piece of it is through that. I'd also say, Justice Alito, Dames and Moore, which the Chief Justice referred to earlier,
I have no idea.
Is really important here because the Solicitor General in that case made a similar argument to what you just heard.
We're waiting for
on
Trump.
Claims provisions. He said
he was going to respond to the Supreme Court striking down his tariffs, and this could be an all-time great fucking crash out.
And he said you've got to defer to the president on a major issue of national security about this very statute. And what did the court do? It rejected those arguments and said IEPA doesn't cover this.
You say that this is not, this case does not, these executive orders do not address an unusual and extraordinary threat. I understand that argument. Suppose that the facts were that it was suppose that there was an imminent threat of war, not a declared war, but an imminent threat of war with a very powerful enemy whose economy was heavily dependent on U.S. trade. Could a president under this provision
We're going to have to watch that clip
impose
from
a tariff as a way of trying to stave
Les
off
Wexner?
that war? Or would you say
Wex
no,
Lesnar?
the president lacks that
Lex
power?
Luthor?
Do tariff, but could do quota,
Luther
embargo,
Lexner?
all of those things.
Whatever his name
But
is.
the
Gave the
president
deposition
imposed the tariffs.
yesterday. The Republicans
There's
released
a
it
category shift between
in just a
tariff and
shocking
other
moment.
powers in IEPA
His
because of
lawyer
revenue
grabbed him
raising.
and
So it's not
threatened
a
to
difference
kill
of degree
him
or something
if
like
he
that.
answered any
That's why,
question with more
I
than
don't
5
doubt
words. And I
tomorrow
assume those 5
purpose
words
of this
are,
had nothing whatsoever to
I
do
am pleading the
with raising
fifth.
1 penny. The president didn't want to raise 1 penny. The president wanted.
Yeah,
to
I am pleading the fifth. That would be those 5 words.
You would say no, can't do that.
But
It's
Wexner
like
just
you
talk,
said
talk,
many
talk,
times,
talk,
the
talk,
purpose
talk.
isn't what you look at. You look to actually what the government is doing. And if you disagree, if you think we're, if you think, or excuse me, if you ruled for us and the
Columbus
president
is
says
by
we need this
far
power, he can go
the
to
best part of
Congress,
Ohio.
to Congress tomorrow.
I can
and
say
get
that
it
with
by
100%
simple majority
certainty.
through reconciliation. But if you
I've never
vote
been to
for
Cleveland.
them, this power,
But I don't
as
think it
Justice
can top
Gorsuch
Columbus.
said, as Justice Barrett said, is going to be stuck with us forever. The power to
Can I
jump.
ask you?
I just wanted to give you a chance to address kind of the other.
Well, yeah, his lawyer is telling him to shut the fuck up
Again,
because he's a
fair
prolific
text.
pedophile,
Okay.
and he's going to incriminate himself.
Been focused on regulate importation, but actually the statute says the president may, by means of licenses or otherwise, regulate importation. And we've had some discussion today about the fact that maybe the president could simply
I bet Toledo was. I bet it was a hopping
tariffs
city.
as licenses or rejigger the
Because there were multiple
schemes so that they are licenses.
factories there. There
Also
wasn't
heard
like
the suggestion
like a
that
main Ford
otherwise,
plant or Chevy plant, right?
You
It's
know,
it was like
licenses and tariffs are very
offshoot
similar, so
industries.
Otherwise, might encompass tariffs there. Thoughts?
Yeah, a few thoughts, Justice Gorsuch. First
Chainsaw,
is,
good to see you, my
the
friend.
SG
Been a
is
little
not
bit.
even making that argument, and I think they're not making it for a number of reasons.
Try
One
to
is
find
that
me on
there's a strong
Facebook. I'm using my real name.
Against reading statutes this way in the unique tax and duties context. Hartramp is one of those cases which says if there's doubt, you don't read the statute to confer such powers. Second, if you were to do that, it's open-ended. It allows, and this was your hypothetical, it allows under the word license them to tariff the world, and
Seems like you're putting a major questions thumb or an interpretive
Dean,
lens
you say there's
on the plain
pedophiles on
text.
both
Is that
sides of the
fair?
aisle,
I think
but
it's- I think
the
you could
vote
call
on the
major
Epstein
questions. I
Transparency
just think
Act
it's like
tells
Justice
me
Barrett said in Nebraska,
one side
providing the
cares,
most natural
every single
way
Democrat
of
voted for it,
understanding what this
and then
statute is
only
about. We're talking
a
about the
dozen
government's
Republicans
reading
voted
a
for it,
statute
around a
that
dozen.
gives the power to
And those
the president
Republicans I can
to junk
respect.
The entire
No, I
tariff.
Most of them are leaving
But you're not
Congress.
treating
Nancy
licenses or
Mace,
otherwise
MTG,
means what it says.
chief among them.
You're saying that we should interpret that narrowly for particular reasons.
So I think
So the
well,
overwhelming
I
majority of the
disagree with it as well.
Republican
I think the
Party
licenses
voted
is
to
something Justice
protect
Sotomayor was saying.
pedophiles.
Don't
Donald Trump
expand
told
the power,
Marjorie
they
Taylor
are
Greene
not verbs, and so
that
it is limited to the 9 verbs.
he
there.
couldn't release the
And so
files because his
regulate, I
friends
don't
would be
think-
hurt.
Thank you, Counsel.
He personally told her that. She's on camera saying that.
I'd like to just revisit the point that Justice
Are you talking about old pube can?
on a similar question.